as many understand it, ends abruptly on your 7th birthday. It's a cultural turning point, a rite of passage dictated not by personal milestones but by the state. It's a calculated move, a reflection of the state's control over even the most intimate aspects of life. With severing, a formal declaration that you've entered a new phase of existence, one where privileges are curtailed and expectations adjusted. For generations, this has been the first, often harsh, lesson in scarcity, a quiet bureaucratic cutoff that shapes Cuban lives from an early age. It's a shared experience, a common thread woven through the fabric of Cuban society, binding individuals together in a collective understanding of limitations. Mothers, already burdened with the challenges of providing for their families, now worry even more about ensuring adequate nutrition for their growing children. They must navigate the complexities of the rationing system, seeking alternative sources of sustenance in a landscape of scarcity. Children too learn a difficult lesson, that their needs are secondary to the state's rules and priorities. They begin to understand that resources are finite and that access to even basic necessities is not guaranteed. Milk, a staple in many other parts of the world, becomes a fleeting privilege here, a reminder of what is lacking rather than a source of nourishment. It transforms into a symbol of the constraints imposed on daily life. The empty glass on a 7-year-old's table, a silent testament to this policy, is more than just an absence of dairy. It's a potent symbol of managed deprivation, a tangible representation of the limitations imposed by the state. It's not just about nutrition and the lack thereof. It's about learning, from a young age, that your worth is conditional, that access to basic necessities is not a right, but a privilege granted and revoked by the government. After 7, you're expected to begin fending for yourself, navigating a system with little to offer and many obstacles to overcome. The safety net, already stretched thin, is pulled away further, leaving individuals to rely on their own resourcefulness and resilience. The government, of course, claims that older children can do without milk, that their nutritional needs can be met through other means. But the loss is felt deeply, not just in the body but in the spirit, as families grapple with the daily realities of scarcity and control. Meanwhile, café con leche, once a common comfort, becomes a luxury reserved for tourists who can afford to pay in hard currency, or those willing to risk engaging in the black market, where goods and services are exchanged outside the bounds of state control. The silence where milk once was, the empty space at the table, serves as a daily reminder of what's missing, a constant presence in the lives of Cuban families. In Cuba, the end of milk is far more than a dietary change. It's the beginning of a profound understanding of what it means to live under a system of control, where even the simplest comforts are subject to the whims of the state. To truly understand the complexities of Cuba's ongoing milk crisis, we need to delve into the heart of the Cuban food distribution system. It's a system deeply intertwined with the nation's history and its political ideology. You must first understand the significance of the Ration Book, a small but powerful document that governs the lives of nearly every Cuban citizen. This isn't just any ordinary piece of paper, it's La Libreta de Abastecimiento, the supply booklet. This booklet, a relic of a bygone era, was first introduced in 1962, in the wake of the Cuban Revolution. It dictates, with unwavering precision, every family's monthly share of the most basic necessities: rice, a staple in the Cuban diet; beans, another essential source of protein; chicken when available; and of course coffee, the lifeblood of Cuban mornings. However, it's crucial to understand that the libreta is not a guarantee of plenty or abundance. It's more accurately described as a record of limits, a testament to the constraints placed on the Cuban people. Among all the items listed, milk stands out as the most heavily restricted, a symbol of the shortages that plague the island. Access to milk is primarily reserved for the most vulnerable segments of the population: children under the age of 7, pregnant women who require the extra nutrition, and a select few individuals with specific medical needs, often requiring a doctor's prescription to obtain it. For the vast majority of the population, the space allocated for milk in their ration book remains perpetually blank, a stark reminder of the scarcity. Each month, as the distribution date approaches, families dutifully line up at their local bodega, the government-run food stores, holding on to a sliver of hope that the promised milk shipment has finally arrived. But all too often, the supply is inconsistent and unreliable, and even when available, the quality of the milk is often far from ideal. The entire process, from the endless waiting to the uncertainty of supply, is often a deeply humiliating experience for those who endure it. The ration book, initially conceived as a means to ensure equity and fair distribution of resources, has, over time, inadvertently become a tool of dependency, fostering a reliance on the state for basic survival. It fosters a culture of waiting, breeds frustration with the system, and ultimately leads to a quiet, simmering desperation among the population. The system, rather than empowering individuals to provide for themselves, ultimately serves to control and manage the population. And so, after 60 long years, the libreta remains a central fixture in Cuban society, a constant reminder of the economic realities of the island. It stands as a ledger, not of prosperity, but of collective poverty, a testament to the enduring challenges faced by the Cuban people. And within that ledger, the empty space reserved for milk is perhaps its most poignant and painful entry, a symbol of unfulfilled needs. In Cuba, scarcity is not merely a happenstance, it's an organized, systematic reality, and for generations of Cuban children, learning to do without milk has become an unfortunate rite of passage. Before the revolution, milk was a daily staple in Cuba, fresh, local, and accessible. After 1959, Fidel Castro made milk a symbol of socialist success, promising abundance for all. The state seized farms, imported European cows, and built air-conditioned barns, ignoring Cuba's tropical reality. For a while, Soviet subsidies made the dream seem real. Milk production soared, propaganda flourished, but the system was artificial, propped up by foreign aid, not sustainable practices. When the support vanished, so did the illusion. The dream of endless milk was powerful, but its roots were shallow. Cuba's dairy golden age was built on borrowed time. Fidel Castro's dairy obsession peaked with Ubre Blanca, the legendary super cow. She broke world records, producing over 100 liters of milk a day, her feats broadcast as proof of socialist triumph. Ubre Blanca lived in luxury, tended by experts, and became a propaganda icon. The government tried to clone her, hoping to flood Cuba with milk, but the project failed. When she died, she was memorialized like a national hero. Her story is a parable: extraordinary results under extraordinary conditions, impossible to replicate. Ubre Blanca was a symbol, not a solution. Her legacy is a glass case, not a nation of plenty. The myth faded and scarcity returned. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 was a seismic event, not just for Eastern Europe but for Cuba as well. For decades, the island nation had relied heavily on Soviet support. The sudden disappearance of this crucial lifeline shattered Cuba's economy, and in particular, its dairy industry, which had been a cornerstone of the revolution's promises. The Soviet Union had provided vital subsidies, including affordable feed for the cattle, and the fuel necessary to transport milk and supplies across the island. Almost overnight, these essential resources vanished. The supply lines were cut, leaving Cuban agriculture in a state of crisis. The high-yield cows, bred for maximum milk production under ideal conditions, were particularly vulnerable. Without proper nutrition, they quickly weakened and died. As the herds dwindled and resources dried up, milk production collapsed, impacting every aspect of Cuban life. The once thriving state farms, symbols of the revolution's agricultural ambitions, became graveyards. They were littered with rusting equipment, silent testaments to a broken system. The fields, once filled with healthy, productive livestock, were now populated by starving animals, a stark reminder of the economic hardship. The promise of daily milk for every child, a cornerstone of the revolution's social contract, became an empty slogan. That promise was replaced by desperate rationing, as the government struggled to distribute increasingly scarce resources. The government formalized the cutoff of milk rations at age 7, a tacit admission that they could no longer fulfill their commitment to the youngest citizens. This decision was a public admission of failure, a clear sign that the Cuban economy was in dire straits. The special period, as it became known, was marked by widespread hunger and a desperate need for improvisation. Milk vanished from Cuban tables, leaving families struggling to find alternatives. People, resourceful as ever, made milk from rice water, attempting to provide some semblance of nutrition for their children. They sweetened coffee with sugar water, a meager substitute for the real thing. The government predictably blamed the U.S. embargo, deflecting responsibility for its own economic mismanagement. But the real cause was systemic collapse, a failure of centralized planning and over-reliance on Soviet support. The crisis exposed the fragility of the Cuban economy and the vulnerability, It exposed the fragility of the revolutionary promise, the idea that the state could provide for all its citizens. The lesson was harsh, a bitter pill for many Cubans to swallow. Survival depended on ingenuity, on the ability to adapt and find creative solutions to overcome the shortages. Survival depended on ingenuity, not the state, which had proven itself incapable of meeting the basic needs of its people. The empty glass became a symbol, a potent reminder of broken promises and unmet expectations. It became a symbol of lost faith in the revolution's ability to deliver a better life. The milk never truly returned to the levels seen before the collapse, leaving a lasting scar on Cuban society. Where the state fails, the black market steps in. Milk becomes contraband, traded in whispers and shadows. Workers skim from state supplies, farmers secretly milk cows at night. Raw, unpasteurized milk is sold in reused bottles at prices few can afford. The risks are high. Police raids, fines, even prison for both buyers and sellers. Every cow belongs to the state, killing one is a serious crime. Yet families take the risk, because children still need milk. The black market isn't about greed, but survival. The government's control creates the very illegality it punishes. Good people become outlaws for a basic necessity. The search for milk is a daily act of quiet defiance. In Cuba, a mother's whisper for leche is an act of hope. In Cuba, milk is more than nutrition, it's a symbol of power and deprivation. The state decides who gets milk, reinforcing dependence and control. Tourists enjoy dairy-laden buffets while locals struggle for a spoonful of powdered milk. This dual reality is a form of nutritional apartheid, highlighting deep inequalities. The ration book and milk cutoff act as subtle leashes, discouraging dissent. Scarcity keeps people focused on survival, not protest. The story of milk mirrors Cuban socialism, grand promises, propaganda, and chronic shortage. The empty milk carton is a symbol of broken dreams and lost choices. In Cuba, even a glass of milk is political. It's a daily reminder of what the state can take away. Today, nothing has changed. 7-year-olds still lose their milk, and parents still worry. The black market thrives, and tourists sip lattes, oblivious to the struggle outside. The milk crisis is not history, it's a daily reality. For Cubans, milk is a measure of freedom. The freedom to choose, to provide, to hope. Its absence shapes lives, dreams, and fears. If you've never had to worry about milk, it's easy to take it for granted. But here, it's a symbol of what's missing. Next time you reach for milk, pause and consider, what would you do if it disappeared? In Cuba, that question is not hypothetical. It's life.